You know you gotta do that. What's up?
Got your Wi-Fi on, man.
Got your Wi-Fi on.
Oh, we got twins.
Yo, come on, you know how we come from.
I ain't even playing.
And they got me mic'd up.
Something's happening in Cleveland, and no one saw it coming. The Browns just made a move that flipped the entire QB depth chart upside down, and it's turning heads across the league. Just a few weeks ago, Shedeur Sanders wasn't even getting second-team reps. Now, he's the starting quarterback heading into the Browns' preseason opener. But that's not the only shocker. Cameras caught him reuniting with an old teammate from Colorado. And what they said to each other before practice had fans buzzing instantly. The media's locked out. Footage is limited. And yet, the noise around Sanders is louder than ever. Is he being set up to shine or set up to fail? Just weeks ago, Shedeur Sanders wasn't even in the conversation. He came into training camp buried on the depth chart, fourth string, barely getting snaps, not even practicing with the twos. Some fans thought he'd be redshirted through the preseason, or worse, quietly phased out before the real games even began.
Well, this was the one joint practice against the Panthers, and I think overall you can say Panthers won the day.
Whispers online grew louder. People said the Browns were just using his name for buzz. Others claimed he was being set up, tossed into a crowded QB room with no real chance to compete. And with veterans like Kenny Pickett and Tyler Huntley ahead of him, it looked like Shedeur was stuck waiting for a moment that might never come. But then, out of nowhere, Kevin Stefanski stepped up to the mic and said 6 words that changed everything. "We'll play Shedeur at quarterback." No disclaimers. No just for a few drives. Sanders was named the starting QB for the Browns' preseason opener. A nationally televised game with the entire NFL watching. It's a move no one predicted. But maybe that was the plan all along. Before the cleats hit the turf and before any passes were thrown, one moment stole the spotlight. And it had nothing to do with playbooks.
Hell, we had it in 7-on-7. How the hell you jump off sides in 7-on-7?
Yeah, that's crazy work right there. That is insane. Get a false start or
yeah,
jump
in
off.
7-on-7.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We had it in team. We had it in the punt game, punt return.
Shedeur Sanders was seen dapping up none other than Jimmy Horn Jr., his former teammate from Colorado. The reunion happened right before practice, and while cameras weren't allowed to film drills, they caught this exchange loud and clear. The vibe? Pure chemistry. Jokes flew, smiles flashed, and then Shedeur said something that hit different. It's personal. If you know, you know. That phrase was the heartbeat of Coach Prime's Colorado squad. And hearing it again, between these two former Buffs, it sparked a wave of nostalgia and hype all at once. But don't mistake it for just a friendly reunion. Jimmy plays for the Panthers now, and when the whistle blows Friday night, these two won't be teammates. They'll be opponents.
Kevin Stefanski confirmed that the only 2 quarterbacks playing in Friday's game will be Shedeur Sanders, who will start, and Tyler Huntley, who just arrived.
For fans, it's not just about watching a game. It's about seeing if that bond holds strong under NFL lights, or as it turns into fuel for competition. And as emotional as that moment was, it was only the beginning. The announcement was bold, but now it's real. Shedeur Sanders is starting in the Browns' preseason opener, and all eyes are on how he'll perform. But the setup? Far from ideal. His arm soreness from earlier in camp raised questions about his readiness. But head coach Kevin Stefanski made it clear, we're past that. No excuses, no limitations. Shedeur's got the green light. But here's where it gets complicated. Key weapons like Kerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman won't be playing. The Browns are resting several starters, meaning Shedeur will be working with limited firepower on a national stage. To make things worse, the Browns restricted media access during joint practices with the Panthers. No real footage, no highlights. Just rumors, tweets, and secondhand reports. It's the kind of situation where a QB either sinks quietly or shocks everyone. And that's the challenge facing Sanders now. He's being handed the keys, but not necessarily the tools. Is this a chance to prove himself? or a trap disguised as opportunity. Either way, pressure's building. And what happened during that secretive joint practice left fans asking even more questions. If you were hoping for highlights of Shedeur lighting it up in practice, you're out of luck. Media coverage during the Browns-Panthers joint practice was extremely limited. Reporters were only allowed to film individual drills and one-on-ones. And even then, barely anything surfaced. For fans, it was radio silence. For Shedeur, it meant performing in the shadows. Still, a few nuggets slipped through. Shedeur got in some reps during 7-on-7s, going 2 for 3, both completions to a receiver named Floria, a guy most fans hadn't even heard of before this camp. Meanwhile, other quarterbacks like Kenny Pickett and Dorian Thompson-Robinson got more total reps. Then came the second round of drills, and Shedeur didn't even touch the field. No second reps, no extra chances, just one short window to show something. Anything. And as if that wasn't tough enough, rain started falling, making the ball slick and timing trickier than usual. Not exactly ideal conditions for a young quarterback trying to prove he belongs. But here's where it gets interesting. Even with limited reps and unknown receivers, Shedeur's throws stood out, and some insiders say he made others look better than they actually are. Sometimes greatness isn't loud, it's subtle, and that's exactly what happened during Shedeur's limited snaps. He wasn't surrounded by stars. He wasn't slinging passes to household names. But still, the players around him, they looked sharper, quicker, more dangerous. Two names stood out, Floria and Gage. Not exactly headline makers, but when Shedeur threw their way, something clicked. One reporter even admitted, "I didn't even know who Gage was until Shedeur started repping with him." That's the difference a high IQ quarterback makes. Sanders wasn't just hitting targets. He was elevating them, running crisp routes, dropping balls into tight windows, getting guys like Canella involved on drags. He brought rhythm to chaos. It's the kind of thing coaches notice, and other teams do too. Because in a league built on depth and development, a QB who can make third stringers look like starters, that's value. And let's be real, these weren't hero ball throws in perfect conditions. It was raining, the timing was off, the reps were few, and yet Shedeur found a way to shine, just by doing the small things right. But now, the stakes get even bigger, and so does the spotlight. This isn't just another preseason game. The Browns versus Panthers matchup will be nationally televised on NFL Network, and Shedeur Sanders will be front and center, wearing number 12, with the whole football world watching. For most rookies, it's just a chance to get reps. But for Shedeur, this is an audition, a statement game, a test that could rewrite his entire trajectory in one night. Because while Cleveland might be keeping things quiet behind closed doors, the rest of the league is wide awake. Scouts from 31 other teams will be watching that game. And if Shedeur puts up numbers, moves the offense, and shows poise under pressure, people will take notice fast. This isn't just about earning a roster spot. It's about planting a flag, proving that he belongs, not just in the Browns' QB room, but in the NFL, period. And if he delivers on this stage, Cleveland might not be able to keep him a secret much longer. But not everyone believes the Browns want him to succeed. While some fans are hyped to see Shedeur Sanders start, others are raising eyebrows, and not for the reasons you'd expect. Online, a theory has started gaining traction. They're setting him up to fail. Think about it. He starts the game, sure, but with key starters like Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman on the bench, his reps in practice have been limited. He's throwing to unfamiliar receivers in the rain, with hardly any media coverage allowed. It almost feels off, like they're giving him the spotlight, but stacking the deck against him at the same time. No rhythm, no chemistry, and barely any time to adjust. Some fans believe it's all optics. Let him take the heat now, so they can justify keeping him on the bench later. A silent setup, but others see something different. A chance, a challenge, a test of who Shedeur really is when everything's on the line. Because if he overcomes this, if he balls out under pressure with everything working against him, then they won't be able to spin the narrative anymore. And that leads to one final question. Let's rewind for a second. At the start of camp, Shedeur Sanders was QB4, an afterthought. No real reps, no media buzz, just a name with potential buried behind the depth chart. Fast forward, and now he's QB1 for the Browns' preseason opener, live on national TV. This isn't just a promotion, it's a statement. A moment that could mark the beginning of something much bigger than anyone expected. If Shedeur delivers, if he throws touchdowns, commands the huddle, and shows poise under pressure, the conversation around him changes overnight. No more developmental project. No more just Coach Prime's son. He becomes a real option for NFL teams, and maybe even a future franchise QB. And if the Browns don't want him, believe this, someone else will. Because in the NFL, talent doesn't stay hidden for long. And when that talent shows up on tape in front of millions, doors open fast. Whether this game makes or breaks his future, one thing's clear. Shedeur Sanders is no longer in the shadows. It started as a surprise, and now it feels like a turning point. Shedeur Sanders was never supposed to get this shot. Not this early, not under these conditions. But here he is, under the lights, with the weight of expectations and the eyes of the league locked on him. No guarantees, no safety net, just one nationally televised game and a massive opportunity. If he plays like the moment's too big, critics will say they were right all along. But if he shows up and takes over, if he turns adversity into a statement, then this game could change everything. For the Browns, for the league, and for a quarterback who was never supposed to be the guy, but just might be. So here's the question no one can answer yet. Is this a one-time shot or the start of Shedeur Sanders' NFL era?